Hello everyone, welcome to the Bodhi Academy. Today we start with Standard 12 Economics PYQ solutions of chapter Money and Banking. Okay, so in this chapter we learn about what are the different functions of Reserve Bank, then what exactly is the meaning of money, then we'll learn about the secondary deposits, then we'll learn about the quantitative and the qualitative measures of RBI. Okay, then we'll also learn about what are the different functions of money. Okay, so let's start with the first question, which is explain the functions of Reserve Bank. Okay, before moving to this question, I'll explain what exactly the meaning of money is. Money is nothing but it act as a medium of exchange. Okay, now whenever you want to go and buy something, then we exchange money for that, right? So earlier in during earlier in those days, ancient times, what used to happen is they used to use like barter system and all. This they used to like in barter system, what they used to do is they used to exchange goods for goods. So this is how the money has evolved. Then they started using coin, then metal money, and all those things. Now is the time of using plastic cards, okay, like plastic money, in the sense debit card, credit cards and all. So let's move to the first question, which is explain the functions of Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank is that is RBI, the central bank, the apex bank of the country, and which monitors the commercial bank. Okay, and it supervises the commercial bank also. And the main function of the Reserve Bank is it controls and issues the currency, okay, in the country. So it act as a apex bank. Okay, so with regards to functions, there are different functions for this, that like the first, as I told, it issues the notes, then it act as a banker's bank, supervises the commercial bank. Okay, then it act as a banker to the government, then a custodian of foreign exchanges, all the foreign exchange reserve and all, it is kept with the RBI. Then it acts as a banker's bank and supervision of the bank. So I'll start explaining step by step. Issuing of note. The central bank of a country has the exclusive monopoly. So monopoly in the sense the only one apex bank which issues the currency to the full country, India. Okay, and it has the right of issuing notes. So the central bank was known as the bank of issue the notes, which is issued by the central banks, and they have got unlimited legal tender. Then next, it acts as a banker to the government. So central bank is a banker, agent, and the financial advisor to the government. Okay, so as a banker, it manages the accounts of the government, supervises, and also gives the advices to the government. Okay, then it also act as an agent. It sells the securities of the government, like the bonds, shares and all. So they act on behalf of the government. Okay, so this we have to understand over here. So, and it helps the government for framing policies and the rules and regulation in the country. Then custodian of foreign exchange. The central bank is a custodian of nation's reserve, and it maintains the foreign exchange reserve to promote interaction of trade and stabilizes the exchange rate over here. The next, it act as a banker's bank. So since it is a apex bank, okay, it supervises the bank and supervises the commercial bank. Okay, the central bank has some cash reserves with the reserve of the commercial bank as a compulsory deposit. So this commercial bank, like Bank of India, Bank of India, what they have to do is they have to deposit some sort of amount with the reserve, some percentage of amount with the Reserve Bank of India, so that in case of any emergency, they can utilize that fund. So that is called as cash reserve ratio. Then supervision of the bank happens in the different ways, which relates to licensing of the commercial bank, then expansion of the commercial banks, like it like if Bank of India wants to expand or they want to set up branches in some different areas of the country, then they have to take a supervision of the central bank. They simply cannot put branches anywhere where they want. Okay, then merger of different banks, then liquidation of the bank. Liquidation, like if they want to liquidate or they want to discontinue with those then they have to ask the RBI. Okay, and without that permission they cannot do anything. So also the next is they act as a RBI act as a lender of the last resort. Like it means that if a commercial bank fails to get a financial accommodation from anywhere it approaches, the central bank it advances loans to the commercial bank. Okay, um, so the central bank advises a loan to such a bank against approved securities by closing the central bank, and it ensures that the banking system and the money of the country remains stable. Then clearinghouse function, the next function of the central bank. So in central bank, it also performs the function clearinghouse. Okay, suppose a bank received a check of 10,000 drawn on a bank drawn by bank B, and bank B receives a check of 15,000 drawn by a bank A. Now here both bank A and B, they have their accounts with the central bank. Okay, the checks of both the banks are cleared through the accounts with the central bank, and this avoids the transact of cash received of the commercial bank. Then so if you see the difference between the commercial bank and the central bank, commercial banks functions under the control of RBI. Okay, and RBI is the apex bank. Then central bank, it focuses on the social welfare, the public welfare. Okay, whereas a commercial bank, they aims at a maximum profit. Then a commercial bank, it contributes to the flow of credit through credit creation, like it mostly lends the loans to the people. But central bank, RBI, it controls the flow of credit. Okay, so these are the some differences between commercial and the central bank. So now we'll move to the next question, which is explain the functions of money, or explain the primary and secondary functions of money. Okay, so as money, I told you, it is nothing but a medium of exchange. So there are two functions over here, primary functions and the secondary functions. Now under primary functions, we know that it acts as a medium of exchange, and the second function under primary is it is a measure or unit of value. But with regards to the secondary function, it acts as a standard of deferred payment. Deferred payment in the sense future payment. Then it acts as a store of value and transfer of value. These are the secondary functions. So I'll start with the first primary function. So as I told, it acts as a medium of exchange. So this means that the money act as a medium of exchange to buy goods and to sell the particular goods. Okay, introduction of money has separated the acts of sales and purchase. Now here in this case there is a double coincidence of want. Here it is with regards to double coincidence of want with in this medium of exchange is not actually required, as a result of overall economic activity has risen. Now production is market oriented. Here in this medium of exchange, the production is market oriented, okay, based on what market requires. So this is the first function, medium of exchange, with regards to the primary function. Then second is measure of or unit of value. So this means that value of each goods and services is measured in terms of money. Like value of each goods and services is measured in terms of monetary value. Monetary means the money value it has. So this was absent, this case was absent with regards to the barter system. Like in barter system, goods was exchanged now for goods, but with regards to the but with regards to the money functions of money, here we have to here what we do in the market, we exchange money for goods. Okay, so with regards to barter system, there was no common unit of value, but here in this case it is there. So since the value or price of good is expressed in terms of money, So here for accounting it becomes so easy, simple and easy, because everything is expressed in terms of monetary value over here, okay, with regards to the functions of money. Then we'll move to the next, secondary or subsidiary functions of money. With regards to the secondary or subsidiary functions of money, here standard of deferred payment you have to understand. So standard of deferred payment in the sense money has made making deferred payments, like deferred in the sense you can pay it in the future. Like let's suppose if you have borrowed a loan, that loan you can pay in the future, right? So when money is borrowed, in the case of loan or any other thing, you can pay the principal amount, you can pay the principal amount and also the interest can be paid in future. So it acts as in this way. So it was difficult to make such payments when barter system was there. Okay, so for example, any goods was borrowed and you immediately cannot make the payment in the barter system. No, so but this can happen with the help of money. Okay, so this is one of the main function. Second, store of value. So money we can save, but with regards to barter system, goods it is perishable in nature, na? So we cannot save it. So money you can save in the banks or in your like a liquid form also you can save it. So money helps to store value or wealth, which is source of future investment. So in the barter system, because goods perish and wear out, this was difficult. Now money has general acceptability, its value remains clearly stable and its storage does not need much space. So this function is called as asset function of money. So store of value function is also called as asset function. Okay. The next, transfer of value. Like goods can be goods are purchased from different places, both for consumption and investment. Okay, now purchasing power here is needed, okay, at those places. So transfer of purchasing power from the place of residence is needed, and money act as a mode of transfer of value from one place to another. Like from anywhere we can sit and we can buy the goods and services whatever we want by exchanging the money through a debit card, credit card, whatever we want. So this used to not happen during in the case of barter system. Okay. So these are some of the functions of money. So the next question is explain the motives of holding money. Okay, now what are the different motives of holding money? With regards to motives, there are three motives: transactionary, precautionary, and speculative motive. Okay, or another question here they can ask is explain the motives of liquidity preference or explain the motives of holding money. So here, first case will move to transactionary motive. So here, people demand money in cash or in the liquid form. Yeah, like for the day-to-day expenses. That is your transactionary motive. Okay, a firm or an individual, they receive income at a fixed time, but spending is spread over a period of time. So in order to meet these expenses, money in cash is needed. The amount of money on individual needs depends on his or her income. Okay, now we'll take the example of a firm. Now if a firm wants to wants like day-to-day expenses, if they are having, then they are going to have some liquid cash with them. Okay, that is transactionary motive, which they are going to use it for a day-to-day expenses, like a small expenses it can be. So this is transactionary motive. Second is precautionary motive. The word precautionary itself is telling us that we are saving the money for some future expenses. Like sometimes uncertainties happens and all. So in this case, this is related to precautionary motive. So individuals and firms demand money in cash form to meet any unforeseen circumstances here. Okay, like illness, unemployment, or accidents, medical emergencies, and all. So, thus, liquidity preference which exit for unexpected event constitute a precautionary motive. So, the amount of money people holds for this motive depends on income, okay, and not on interest rate. So, this is precautionary motive. We'll move to the next, that is speculative motive. Speculative motive is nothing but here it depends on the speculations in the market, like the shares, bonds, the speculations which happens with regards to, like if you want to invest in something. So the amount get decreased or increased by the time. Okay, so traders and businessmen make estimates about the future prices. Okay, so here it's nothing but just to make estimates about the future prices of bonds in order to make profit. So here the motive of holding money in cash is related to the present rate of interest. Okay, so this we'll learn with the next example. I'll move to the next question. So this precautionary motive, speculative motive, and transactionary motive will explain. I'll explain with the next question. That is, state the motives of holding money in the following situation. So this. So the first situation is Shreya's father keep aside rupees 20,000 for the day-to-day expenditure of his family. So here Shreya's father is keeping aside some amount of money for the day-to-day expenditure. So this is our transactionary motive. Okay, so transactionary motive, as we have learned, keeping aside some amount for day-to-day expenses, it is a transactionary motive. Second, Tapasya's mother keep aside rupees 10,000 cash to meet with unforeseen circumstances. So here this is called as precautionary motive, okay, because they are keeping some money aside for some unforeseen circumstances. Okay, so this is called as precautionary motive. So they are already taking precautions in order to meet those unforeseen circumstances here. Then next, Prerna is a trader who has a liquidity preference so that she can invest her money in bonds when the interest on bonds is high and the price of bonds are low. So this is nothing but a speculative motive. Okay, so here she is like making estimates over here. Okay, so this is speculative motive. Now we'll move to the next question, which is explain the measures of money supply. Okay, so we'll learn what exactly is money supply is. So it refers to the total stock of money held by the people of country at a point of time. Okay, and it does not include money held by a suppliers of money. Okay, that is government and the banking system. So with regards to the measures of money or measurement of money supply, it includes all these things, that is M1 plus M2 plus M3 and M4. Okay, now let's start explaining with M1. Okay, measures of money supply. So M1 measurement includes C plus DD plus other deposits. C is cash plus demand deposit plus other deposits. Okay, now C is currency and notes. Okay, here C means cash, which is currency and notes, and coins, which is held by the public. Then DD is the nothing but it's a demand deposits. Okay, demand deposits of public financial institutions like commercial banks and all. So checks, deposit, so which can be drawn or transferred. So this is demand deposits. Then other deposits. Other deposits is demand deposits of public financial institutions like IDBI, Industrial Development Bank of India, foreign government, and banks and international financial institutions. So this comes under M1 measurement of money supply. So here it is what are the things which is included? Cash plus demand deposits and other deposits. Okay. Then with regards to M2, the next measurement, M2 includes all the things of M1, all the things of M1 plus deposits with post office saving. This is included in M2. Okay, so M2 along with M1, it also includes the savings of the people, but savings of the people from the post office. Okay, whatever they have, people have deposited in the post office, that comes under M2. Okay, and also everything of M1 is related over here. So basically all the savings, all the money which public holds. Okay, then next is M3 measurement of money supply. M3 measurement, so here it includes along with the M1, you can see M1 is included, first part. Okay, it includes net time deposits here. Net time deposits in the sense here the fixed deposits with the commercial bank. So whatever we keep, fixed deposit we keep with the commercial bank will come over here. Okay, fixed deposit. So M3 includes all the things of M1 and the fixed deposit. Net time deposits means the fixed deposits of the people with the commercial bank. Okay, then next is M4. M4 measurement. M4 includes all the things of M3, okay, plus total deposits with post office. So whatever the total deposits we are keeping with the post office is included in M4. The next part what you have to learn about these things is narrow money and broad money. So if you see here, M1 and M2 is called as narrow money, okay. So these two are narrow money, and M3 and M4 is broad money. Okay, so M1 and M2 is narrow money and M3 and M4 is broad money. Okay, so M1 and M2 measures of money supply are together, it is known as narrow money, since they can be easily converted into cash. Okay, that's why it is called as narrow money. But with regards to M3 and M4, measurement of money supply, together they are called as broad money. Okay, so since they are the least liquid of all the measures, so this takes time. So the next question is explain the instruments of monetary policy, or explain the quantitative instruments of monetary policy. Okay, so with regards to quantitative instruments of monetary policy, first one is bank rate, then open market operation, cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio. Okay, so these are some of the things what we are going to discuss. So first we'll move to the bank rate. So bank rate is a rate at which the commercial bank gives credit. Bank rate is the rate at which the central bank gives credit to the commercial bank. Okay, so if any increase or decrease in bank rate is often followed by increase or decrease in the market rate of interest. So here, thus the cost of credit is increased by increasing the bank rate over here by the central bank. And during the inflation time, like inflation in the sense rise in prices of goods and services, and deflation is just the opposite of this. Okay, so during inflation time what happens is this reduces the flow of credit during deflation. Okay, and the cost of credit is reduced by reducing the bank rate, and so this increases the flow of credit in the market. Then second one is open market operation. Open market operation is nothing but it is buying and selling of government securities like shares, bonds and all. So the central bank withdraws cash balances from the economy by selling securities like national savings certificates and all other securities. And what they do is they buy securities. Okay, so the central bank adds to the cash balances over here in the economy. Okay, and if cash balances are increased, the flow of credit here it multiplies with the effect. Okay, and vice versa. Then next is cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio means CRR. It refers to the minimum percentage of bank's total deposit requires to be kept with the central bank. So whatever the commercial banks are there, right? So they have to keep certain amount of money with the commercial bank. If in case of commercial bank doesn't have any money, or in case of emergency, they central bank will give that particular amount to them, whatever they have kept as a reserve. So a commercial bank have to keep with the central bank a certain percentage of their deposits in the form of cash reserve. Okay, as a matter of law. So this is with regards to cash reserve ratio. Then we'll move to the statutory liquidity ratio. So every bank here is required to maintain a fixed percentage of certain amount, okay, a fixed percentage of asset in the form of cash with themselves. So here a bank, a commercial bank or any bank, they are going to keep certain amount of ratio with them. Okay, so this ratio is called as SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. So this ratio is fixed by the central bank. So central bank supervises the commercial bank to keep certain amount of deposits with themselves only. Okay, so here here why they do is to decrease the flow of credit, the central bank increases SLR over here, and conversely SLR is reduced to increase the flow of credit in the economy. Okay, so this is with regards to the instruments of monetary policy. Now we'll move to the MCQs. Okay, and we'll move to the first MCQ, which is secondary deposits are also called as derivative deposits. Okay, so secondary deposits we have learned it in the functions of money. Okay, like store value, and all. So these are called as derivative deposits over here. The next MCQ is the rate at which central bank gives credit to the commercial bank is known as bank rate, or it is also called as repo rate. Okay. The next is public enterprises focuses on. So public enterprises basically they focuses on the public welfare, the welfare of the society. And the last MCQ is the part of the profit which is distributed among the shareholder is called as dividend. So shareholders basically they are the owners of the company, they get dividend. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for watching the video. Do like, share and subscribe.